So obviously there's lots of reasons to be concerned.
It's certainly problematic. At the very least, it's very damaging.
This drip, drip, drip is undermining the credibility of this administration.
Those are Republicans on Capitol Hill, objecting to Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with a Russian lawyer last year and the emails, and questioning whether the White House can accomplish anything while simultaneously trying to battle against the steady stream of new revelations about Russia. Let's talk about it with our panel. We have with us Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California, Alice Stewart, who's a former Ted Cruz communications director, former Republican Attorney General of the great Commonwealth of Virginia, Ken Cuccinelli, and Bakari Sellers, former Democratic South Carolina State Representative. Thanks, one and all, for being here. Ken, Charles Krauthammer, who is in many ways a very powerful conservative pundit and a leading one, I think it's fair to say, he said that we're in a new phase now and that this was not acceptable, whether or not it was legal. This meeting was not acceptable. Do you agree with him?
Well, certainly there was nothing illegal about it, but it certainly has raised enormous questions. We've spent, look, it's Sunday at the end of the week that has covered nothing but Donald Trump Jr. I mean, virtually nothing. I mean, the health care bill came out Thursday, and it was the tail end of any news show. And I think that's a problem on two levels. One, it isn't going to affect Americans' lives. But second of all, it has distracted. It has thoroughly wiped off the table other meaningful subjects to people's lives, like health care. And, you know, Donald Trump Jr. gave him the ammo to do that.
Yeah. And Alice, I mean, you heard the argument from Jay Sekulow. There was nothing illegal, but he didn't answer my question when I asked, well, what about, was it moral? Was it ethical?
Was it improper? Yes, it was improper. And their argument that, well, anybody would have taken this meeting in politics. No, they wouldn't. People would not have taken this. Yes, do we take oppo? Everyone at this table is familiar with people coming to you with opposition research on your opponent. However, when it's the Russian government, you say no, and you immediately call the FBI. And I think that's the problem. I think Donald Trump Jr.'s amnesia with regard to this meeting is troublesome. But even more so than that, his affluenza and the righteous indignation toward anyone who questions whether or not they knew about Russians tipping the scale towards Donald Trump, that is discouraging to the American people, and I find it insulting as well.
Congressman, we found out that there are at least 8 people at this meeting, including a Russian-American lobbyist with alleged ties to Russian intelligence. As a member of the House Intelligence Committee, how significant, how important are these other people at the meeting besides the 3 Trump players and the lawyer?
They're very significant. We want to hear from them, and also want to hear from anyone who may have been involved in setting up the meeting or any post-meetings that took place. I don't think this was a one-off. It doesn't look like that. I also agree with Ken, though. I think this is costing us everything. You think of all those people and all the crowds that Donald Trump had who were, really, putting their hopes on him to put them back to work, to help them with their problems in their life. And this investigation, the continuum of saying no Russia, no collusion, to where we are today saying, essentially, so what, this is opposition research. The distraction has affected our ability to work for those people, especially his ability to deliver on the promises he made.
Do you think Democrats are talking too much about the Russia investigation as opposed to other issues such as health care and tax reform?
No, I think that Democrats, and I heard my friend Gavin Newsom recently talk about this issue, but I think Democrats are perfectly capable of walking and chewing bubblegum at the same time. I don't hear the outrage from my Republican colleagues that I believe that this Russia investigation deserves. I mean, I think that we are talking about a legitimate threat against our democracy. I mean, I like to play the what-if game. What if Barack Obama, did this? Or what if Hillary Clinton did this? Ken Cuccinelli would be red in the face and he'd be running around with pitchforks in Washington, D.C. But we don't see that same outrage here because it's Donald Trump and he's able to meander his way in and out of lies. And so I think the Democrats can talk about the 23 million people that are going to get kicked off of health care. And we can also say that Donald Trump Jr., what he did was a threat to our democracy and borderline treason.
So, Ken, let me ask, but you agree with Alice, right, that getting opposition research from somebody billed as with the Russian government, you wouldn't take that meeting?
No, but I don't agree with Alice in the sense that, and I don't think most Americans think that everybody in Washington who's saying, oh, I would never do this, bull honky. Look, this is a low form of human life inside the Beltway here, and an enormous proportion of these folks would take this information if they could get it. I just don't buy that.
From the Russian government?
You bet. I don't buy. Now, again, the beginning of your question, I'm troubled by it. I don't like it, but I'm kind of an idealist, and I don't think most people are. And in your polling, you were talking, I think, to Senator Warner about it at the beginning of the show or earlier part of the show, where most people think Democrats just stand for being against Trump.
Let's put that poll up.
Comes back to is part of the problem. This is a bipartisan problem, and to the
There it is,
congressman's
52% just against Trump, what the Democrats stand for.
But that's
we're losing our opportunity
But that's
here.
okay. Like, for example, people I'm about winning elections, right? We want to change the conversation in Washington, D.C. We can't do it if we don't get more Democrats elected. What did Republicans in 2010 stand for? Republicans in 2010, they were against Barack Obama.
No, they're against Obamacare.
They were against Obamacare.
And now we are against repeal and replace, or whatever that may be, and we are against Donald Trump. The central theme of the Republican Party the last 8 years, Mitch McConnell said it best. He wanted it to be a one-term president. Was the man who was president of the United States. It's okay, and we can talk about other issues.
But I think we have a future elections coming up. We have the 2018 midterm and another presidential election. And I think Republicans and Democrats, I hope, see this as an opportunity to at least say we have a responsibility to secure the ballot box. We know the Russians will do this again. Other countries will see this as an opportunity.
And they've done it in the past.
Yeah, they have done it in the past. But whatever Mueller does, we should at least accept the facts that Russia attacked us, and we have a responsibility to make sure it doesn't happen again.
And that's also part of the president's voter integrity panel. While they're looking to clean up voter registration data across the country, part of that they will be able to determine information about Russians' influence and impact on the election. And I think that's important. To your point, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again. And if I was advising the White House, which they wouldn't listen to me, get it all out there, tell them everything about all of these meetings, and let's let Mueller do an investigation, the House and Senate, put it behind us, and let's get to the issue at hand, which is the agenda, repealing and replacing Obama.
Let's talk about that. Here's President Trump talking with Christian Broadcasting Network's Pat Robertson about repeal and replace.
It has to get passed. They have to do it. They have to get together and get it done.
What'll happen if they don't?
Well, I don't even want to talk about it because I think it would be very bad. I will be very angry about it, and a lot of people will be very upset.
If it fails to pass, do you think President Trump might go after some of his fellow Republicans?
Well, that's always a possibility anyway. I mean, he's very unpredictable in that respect, and he's never been in politics before, so we don't know what he'll do in this midterm election. That's a big question mark for how that'll happen. But it'll also matter when we turn the corner into 2018, what's his standing with the electorate, and particularly the primary electorate, which is the source of his leverage to have that impact. And that's determined by what goes on here in Washington, whether anything gets done, whether he tries and it doesn't. But frankly, if we have a health care bill that doesn't basically undo Obamacare, Senate Conservatives Fund, where I work, we don't want it to pass.
Who do you think, there are already two Republicans in opposition, Collins and Rand Paul. If one more comes out against it, then it's dead. Who do you think is most likely to fit that role? There are 8 to 10 Republicans who are wavering, according to polls.
One of the things that Mitch McConnell's deathly afraid of is postponing his vote any longer, which he has to do because of Senator McCain, because Democrats are going to ramp up the resistance, as we so eloquently call it. But I would look at actual governors. I would look at Kasich, and I would look at Sandoval, because they have a great deal of influence over Portman and over Heller. And I think that's where Democrats are going to focus a lot of their energy. But I do recall when Obamacare was being rolled out about this same time in 2008, 2009, Barack Obama stood in front of the media and did a press conference for 50 minutes and took questions. We're waiting on Donald Trump to do the same thing.
Congressman, what do you think is going to happen with this bill?
I think the people are being heard. And yeah, I wish we were amplifying these stories 2 years ago, but it's the people who are coming forward saying, this affects my son with cancer, this affects my husband's treatment, don't charge us more, don't take away our care. And I think that energy is going to be leveraged in the Senate, and it's going to keep them from.
But Obamacare is why the charges are going up. It is
and we should
why
work to strengthen Obamacare.
And that's why I think Kari's right.
No, you don't strengthen a failure. You get rid of a failure.
We got a break. I'm sorry,
She
guys.
was saying I was right.